This is the Texas Land Guys podcast, hosted by brothers Tim Dosch and Tom Dosch. With their partners David Marshall and Trip Rich, they have built DMRE, the leading land brokerage in Texas. With decades of experience brokering deals between landowners and real estate developers, they take you inside the deals that move the market.
Welcome to the Texas Land Guys podcast. We have a guest with us here today in the Dallas studio, Josh Doyle of No Longer Nomads. Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Hey man, thanks for having me. Pumped to be here.
I didn't know if I should introduce you as No Longer Nomads, Uncharted Ministries, Uncharted Ventures. You have a lot of different organizations that you run, and we've been friends for a long time. So it's going to be fun to just get into it and introduce you to our audience and talk about the Middle East today, which is a topic that a lot of people are thinking about.
Let's do it. Well, and we've been on some fun adventures to the Middle East too, so we'll have to talk about that too.
I was telling that to Tim on the way in today. I was like, it's crazy that Josh and I have been in Saudi Arabia together, Israel together, Turkey together. I was trying to remember all the different countries we've been to, and then we've been, whether it was with each other or with like different family members in Lebanon and Jordan and
all over,
countries.
Man.
So
endless adventures.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I guess you guys, you were one of the first Americans to climb Mount Sinai again, right? After things opened up in Saudi Arabia, it's like the mountain that they believe is Mount Sinai. Because there's been different ones that they've thought, but this is the one that actually has like the top is all black and burned, and it's pretty amazing.
It's amazing, man. And you have remnants of golden calf down at the base, and it just pointed to this could be the area where God sent the flame down, burnt the top of the mountain. Moses went up, which Moses was a bad dude if he went up that mountain multiple times, because we were huffing
Was
and
that
puffing.
a pretty hard climb?
Like some of it was vertical, and our guide, Tim, it was pretty funny. Like we ended up summiting before our guide because
I
had
heard
some
he was
stomach
sick,
issues.
right? He had like...
He had some stomach issues, so he didn't make it. But he was upset that we went ahead of him and summited because it was pretty dangerous.
He was smoking cigarettes the whole hike, so it was pretty funny. Yeah,
cigarettes and coffee on a bad stomach is not a good idea.
I can't imagine, man.
I didn't know we were going to start there, but yeah, that trip to Saudi Arabia was pretty crazy. And a lot of the stuff that we got to do together was pre-COVID, and it's been so hard to travel internationally ever since then. And every time I think that I've been on a trip, I was thinking about this the other day, because you took 10 of us from DMRE to Israel. I'd always wanted to walk the Jesus Trail with you, which is trail Nazareth to Galilee, and then getting to do a lot of other things while we were there in Israel. So we did that. And I remember when we did that, there was a conflict with Iran, right when we were there. And this was right before COVID in 2020. I think we took out their general, the US did.
Oh, yeah.
So I remember
that was Trump.
We were in Israel, and we were staying at like a kibbutz, and there's all these fighter jets flying over.
Oh, yeah.
And I just remember the guys that were with us, the other DMRE guys, their eyes were just wide, and their parents were texting them like, what's going on?
It gets fine. Happens all the time.
Iran was like, we're going to strike back. They were having the funeral. And it was, and then that like kind of blew over, that nothing happened, and then you just fast forward, and it's like we keep having these run-ins when we're over there, things going on. And
well, Iran is truly Israel's big enemy since 79. And we can get into some of that too, however deep you guys want to go. But I mean, imagine this, like our parents knowing what freedom was like, right? So in Iran, let's assume we're Iranians, and our dads and moms know what what freedom was like, right? And so, we can get into some of the history if we want to without boring your audience. But think of it this way. There was a lady that went on maternity leave in Iran. She was wearing dress and high heels to work. And then she goes on maternity leave. Ayatollah takes over control. And she comes back to work. And all the men, they're wearing their dish dashes. All the furniture, office furniture, completely taken out of there. It's rugs. They're told not to wash their dish dashes to look dirty, to stay dirty. The women, they're now women in full hijab. So she went from having some rights as well to vote, and women had prominence. They could be respected. And all of a sudden, she said within a few weeks, completely different world that they live in. So today we're seeing history unfold where Iran is not free, but some of our people that work in Iran are saying pray for them, right? Because they are not free still. They're not free yet. Imagine our dads, saying, get out to the streets, fight for that freedom that we once had, but we haven't had for many, many years. So
yeah, that's such
crazy.
A good point. I think a lot of people don't realize that back before the revolution in Iran, it was like a really progressive country, all kinds of business. there's an incredible book called On the Wings of Eagles that's about Ross Perot and what they were doing in Iran at the time of all of the revolution. And they were basically helping Iran establish like a social security. So they had a massive amount of people over there. And then what the book is about is as everything was falling apart, he starts evacuating his people. And so like you're talking about, hundreds and thousands of people and families getting evacuated at the airport, not sure if they're going to make it out.
Yeah.
But then a couple of his senior guys get basically taken in for questioning and then thrown into prison. And so then Ross Perot has to organize like a private task force of his employees to go in and rescue him. And he trains them with like a military.
It's pretty cool.
It's
wild.
Incredible. They go in and I won't completely blow what happens, but incredible story. But to think that was happening, you have a really large Texas-based company that's doing all this business in Iran. Yeah. It was a huge frontier for, building your business. And then now it's like nobody could do any business there and you couldn't go there. Even actually the pastor of the church that I go to here in Dallas and good friend of Tim's, his family's Iranian. And he was talking about it a couple weeks ago, just he's never been able to go back since they left. And just his desire to want to be able to, go back someday. Yeah. And like you said, he grew up, he's in his 50s. So like he grew up and was alive when it was free. And then his parents, that's where they were. And so many people had to flee because of what happened.
It's terrible. Really sad state, but I mean, what's happening today, it's so cool that the Iranian people have an opportunity that they haven't had since 79. And so you can see, I don't know if you guys see social media videos of like women that are taking off the hijab and they're starting to finally dress like the West. And like you said, Tom, they were very kind of like the Switzerland of the Middle East, They were very much like progressive and then so all of a sudden to have that taken away, they said within like 5 weeks, completely different country. And so all sorts of rights gone and freedom's gone. And so, I mean, it's pretty sad. I mean, you can see why there's so much emotion pent up here, but you still have people that are sympathetic to the regime today. And so there's a few different ways they want that to go down where people may say, well, what's next for Iran? Well, a monarchy like the Shah that they had before, they had the Shah of Iran, which is like a monarchy. They had a king. The Shah is considered a king. And so he basically fled. And so the reason why they don't want to go back to that type of system was it was very, not as oppressive as it was today, but it was very controlling, very traditional. And so you had some people that are wanting to be more westernized, right? Look more like the West, more like Europe and the States. And then you have some that are, like I was saying, sympathetic to the regime that really do want another Ayatollah. They want more mullahs. They want that 12th Imam to come down, who they believe is going to be like the Messiah for them. And so anyways, interesting stuff. So it is very complicated still, but I think the world would be safer if they didn't go back to Ayatollahs.
Yeah.
What do you think the chances are, Josh, of the people actually being able to get a regime change and it being, maybe a somewhat, healthy regime? Yeah. Because it makes me think a little bit of Iraq. We went in and took out the regime, and then there was this big kind of void, and then ISIS came up. You basically had more radical groups that came up, and it's also interesting to think about all these different nations in the Middle East. And obviously traveling there like you have, so many times, it's very complex, a lot of different people groups, a lot of different interests. I think in the West, we almost think of it as this homogenized group. There's a Muslims and there's a Jews, and it's like where they're all the same. And it couldn't be different from that.
Sure.
So.
Yeah, man. I mean, good question. I would say they have a great opportunity now that they haven't had since 79 because of the military pressure we're putting on them, Israel's putting on them. I mean, like this is their time to rise, but there are Ayatollahs in place. And I don't know if you guys saw this recently. I think it was yesterday. Israel says, we know every single mullah in line, every single person you try to put in that position is on borrowed time. And so
you hate being the next guy up.
Yeah, I know. Like they're trying to get Khomeini's son to be the next Ayatollah. And I was looking at this in the parking lot just now. They already know where he is. Yeah. He's in a bunker right now with top leadership, top brass, and they already know where he is. And so, for Israel to say you're on borrowed time, it's pretty scary.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking it'd be interesting to back up for a second just to establish a little bit of credibility around your time in the Middle East. Because I know we mentioned lots of trips, but it'd be interesting for our audience to hear like when you started going to the Middle East. Yeah. I was trying to remember how many times you've been with Tim, and I was like, I don't know if it's 50. I mean, I know you've been a lot of times. Like, and even at a young age, you started going. Maybe just give a little bit of the history there, and because you've interacted again with Muslims in the Middle East, Jews in the Middle East. You've been in Israel several times. You've been in the West Bank with Palestinians. Like, I just think your perspective, it's one thing to be like reading the news and have an opinion. It's another thing to have actually like you've walked the Jesus trail and interacted with people that actually live in these countries of all different socioeconomic levels. So I'd love to like back up and let you share a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my dad started going to Israel in the 90s, and so he was pastoring a church in Monument, Colorado, went on his first tour to Israel, and he just loved it. He kept going back. And so his thing was, I will take each of you kids to Israel with me someday. Like, all right, let's do it. So he took us to Israel. I think I was maybe 8 or 9. And so about your oldest age.
Yeah, that's so awesome.
Which is wild. I didn't really remember a ton of it, but I will say this, once you go to Israel, it gets in your blood and you keep going back. I've been back close to 40 times.
Wow.
Every time I go, it's incredible. Every time I go, I'm like, I can't wait to get back. Why? Because it's our spiritual home. So much of what we read in the scriptures happens there. And so, I mean, as you know, when you're there, truly your scriptures come alive and you just can't get enough of it. And so every time I'm there, I'm learning new stuff. Been all over Israel for sure. The West Bank, you know, we do stuff with the Bedouins in the South, and I can share some stories too if you want to go further there. But the reason we love Israel is because, I mean, I just went there at a young age and I could not stop going. I was reading Backpacker magazine, and it was some guy's journey to Israel. He hiked the Jesus Trail. It was a 4 or 5 day blog, and it was like, I stayed here with a Jewish family. The next night I stayed with an Arab family, and I'm like, I want to do that. You know, like so many of the tours are bus to site. The Americans roll in. It's like all force fed through the, you know, kind of like tourist traps and whatnot. And so I was like, I want to do that. So we took a group of friends out there. We hiked the trail, got terribly lost in Israel, but we were hiking through villages, a Jewish village. We were hiking through a kibbutz. Next night, we're staying with a family that's Arab, that like totally different views from us. But we were learning from them. We were learning from their hospitality, their culture, all of that. And so that's when we started taking teams out there, and it was just so fun, right? Just as a cultural experience. But Israel, I've been there, you know, close to 40 times, and then kind of all over Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt a bunch, Turkey. Almost got killed in Turkey by ISIS. That's a different story. We can get into that one.
Tom and I were talking about that story on the way over here. I was like, I remember, because I heard about that. You were like in a refugee camp in southern Turkey, right? With Syrian refugees, and you got surrounded by like an ISIS group, and then you were like texting on your phone through your pants, right? Telling people what was going on.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. I mean, so we were doing some church planting, right? So we went to this refugee camp and we walked in, and I'm telling you, it was so sad, you guys. Like, a lady had a newborn baby and she handed the baby to my friend David and said, please take, I think it was a girl, take her home with you. So, I mean, imagine that, you know, your wife having a newborn baby, someone coming in to give, you know, your little community aid, and you are trying to give your newborn baby away. I mean, it was just like, where are we? And when we landed at the airport, we actually got stopped by security, and they're like, are you here to join ISIS? We're like, no, we're not here to join ISIS.
Because that's when a lot of people were, and you had people that were white, English descent, like joining ISIS. A lot of people from the UK. Just Arabs. Yeah,
Germany.
Yeah, a lot of people would fly into this airport, and then it was just, you could hire someone to pick you up on motorcycle and a truck, and they would just take you across the border. 30 minutes later, you're in Aleppo, which is in Syria. And so this was at the height of the Civil War. ISIS just was controlling swaths of the area. And so we're in a region where we were in a refugee camp, just bringing food, water, mattresses, and all that. And it was incredible story there. Just with the work that was done, that was so cool to see God move. But that night we went into the village, or to the market, and so we're walking through, and so there were a lot of ISIS fighters there, you guys, like a lot of ISIS fighters. When we were there, we were getting reports that like folks would get, soldiers, ISIS soldiers would get injured, and then they would be at a hospital right down the road from us getting help from Turkey. So there was like, they were definitely helping Irish fighters and sympathetic toward them. But the Turkish people don't love Americans because they thought we were coming in to serve ISIS, right? Because so many Westerners were. And so anyways, we were going through the market and I see a guy who definitely looked like he was with ISIS and he had a big beard and cropped mustache and just like this, I don't know, his eyes, super evil. I mean, you could just tell by the look in their eyes. And so anyways, we're walking through and it was me up front, my buddy David, and then Tommy behind him. And we're walking through the market. We were supposed to go left, walk down the road, then our hotel was right there. And so this guy's coming at me and he bumps my shoulder and I'm like, I look back and he immediately flips around and is tailing my brother Tommy. So he starts following us. It's like, oh shoot. And so I was scared because they were throwing Westerners in vans. And I had this thought, and my brother and I were talking about this later, is like, if we get thrown into a van while we're here, like, we're going to fight to the death. Like, I mean, I don't know what you can do, but I ain't getting thrown into a van because I don't know if you guys remember Jihadi John.
Head or something, right? Yeah.
Jihadi John was that guy. I think he was from the UK and he was beheading all the people from the West. And so, and he was right in that area in Aleppo. And I kept thinking, holy cow, if we get thrown in a van, we're done. And so we were supposed to go left at this T in the market. And we noticed this guy's just right up on us. We go left, he goes left, we go right, we go left. He's following us everywhere through the market. I'm like, so instead of going left, we go right and we go deeper into the market and have no idea where we're going at this point. And I just see ISIS heads popping out all over the place. And you can tell they're all kind of communicating with each other. It was freaky. I mean, it truly felt like everything was closing in. And that's when I popped a text over to my parents and saying, hey, I think things aren't looking good. There's some ISIS fighters around. And so it was crazy, just the grace of God to get us out of there. There's a lady praying in the States and she was like, I pray, Lord, that you would send a person that speaks perfect English to their rescue. And so truly, I'm telling you guys, police officers, we were stopping like security guards, anyone that we would think that shopkeepers that would speak English, nobody spoke English. And so we're sitting there and it just felt like the crowd was just coming in on us and we were kind of doomed. I mean, not to be super dramatic, but just felt like, I mean, this is not good. And some guy comes up, he speaks perfect English and he goes, are you guys lost? I was like, does it look like it? Like, we looked like we were totally lost. And he pulls out his phone and he's like, let me help you get to your hotel. And he fires up his phone. He starts it it was turned off. He starts it up. I'm looking at it. It's a black screen and it kicks on. I'm like sitting there like, dude, come on, get the phone on, And the phone's slowly turning on. And he's like, oh, shoot, this is the wrong phone. And he pulls out his SIM card and he puts it into another phone. And I'm just sitting there like, oh my goodness. And so he finally gets a phone going. And then he pulls up the address of the hotel. He said, you can actually go this way, down this street, and then cut this way. I was like, all right. There are thousands of people in the market, tons of ISIS fighter, Turkish people that did not want us there. It looked like truly lion's den type thing. I mean, it felt like we were done any minute. And so we then take a right where this guy said, and literally goes from thousands of people to not one person in the street. And so all of a sudden we started booking it to the hotel and we're looking back, like waiting for like a lynch mob. And so literally we get to the hotel, we lock it. A lot of us didn't sleep well. Tommy and Dave and I didn't sleep the best because we kept thinking, if we get overwhelmed at the at the hotel desk here, like, where are these Americans? It could happen. So anyways, that was our story. Praise the Lord. We're safe. And it was cool seeing the body of Christ just assemble in prayer. Our office shut down, was praying for us too. And so could have been bad.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. Yeah. And I know you could tell stories about your adventures and things that have happened. I know Africa, the Middle East, a lot of places that you've been and traveled. I was thinking we back up for a minute. When you were talking about Israel, I think it'd be helpful for our audience to understand, like in a place like Israel, how diverse the culture can be.
Sure.
And so if you're thinking like historic Middle East and what might be in a lot of people's minds have never been there, and you're thinking like Lawrence of Arabia, that still exists with the Bedouins. Like you still have that. Wow. And then you also have some of the most advanced technology and some of the wealthiest people in the world. And that really exists in a place like Saudi Arabia.
Totally.
When we were there together, it's like most of the country are, I would say a lot higher percent there, Bedouin and poor than you have like, the big cities where there's a lot of wealth. Yeah. And Israel, I know the Bedouins will kind of go between countries and they're nomadic, so they'll travel, but there's a lot of diversity there. And so when we look at these countries and we think about like Iraq and Iran and Saudi Arabia, I think from a Western perspective, we're not thinking about the different people groups that are existing. And in some cases, like traveling between countries. and maybe how like the Kurdish people are viewed depending on what country they're in.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting aspect to kind of hit, because you've been exposed to that. And even within the course of that one trip, you were staying with like all those different people groups.
Yeah.
But what have you learned about just some of the dynamics of those people groups working together, even in just a place like Israel, where the country of Israel, even there, I can't remember where the Knesset, is what it's called. It's so much more diverse.
Totally. You have Arabs, you have Jews, you think it's just all Jewish people, but So in Israel just alone, I mean, you have so many different groups there. You can be Jewish, Jewish as an ethnicity, but also a religion. And so you can have people that convert to Judaism, right? Westerners, you can have, not too super common, Arabs can, but then you can also have Arab Muslim, you can have Arab Christian, you can have all different, you can have an atheist that doesn't believe in anything. So you have all different types of religions. But, kind of if you're looking at Israel on a map, it looks like a kidney bean, and the shape of that kidney bean is the West Bank, and that's Palestinians. And so we've been in there many times. A lot of great people there. And so a lot of people from the West will go, man, people from the West Bank are evil, or there's a lot of terrorists there, which yes, there are, but there's also a lot of great people, a lot of solid believers there in the West Bank. And then if you're looking at Israel, it's kind of like a strip. On the bottom left side, you have Gaza, which is even more remote, right? And again, there's an underground church there that's thriving. There's a lot of amazing believers, but Gazans are they have less freedoms than people in the West Bank do. And it's much more radicalized. That's where Hamas was on October 7th. That's where the attacks came from. I don't know if you guys remember. I'm sure you guys do, of course, but I don't know if your audience does. The attacks came from Gaza, and it was supposed to be a coordinated attack with the West Bank and with Lebanon. And if all three of those points pushed into Israel, they would have been annihilated. So it was truly the hand of God that saved that Israel during that time. But it's a very diverse group. Then you have the Bedouins down south. And so we've done a lot of work with the Bedouins. And so they are your typical, like you said, Lawrence of Arabia people group. They're nomadic. They wish they could still go across international borders and go into Jordan and go into Saudi Arabia, because that's what they've done for centuries. And so you have the Bedouin people group, who I love. They're so fun to be around. They're just like so laid back and just on a different standard of time. One of the people we stay with, they're like goat herders, right? And and they'll stay in the desert, and they know the desert extremely well. They know the desert so well. I don't know if this was on a trip with you, but we woke up one morning and one team member got lost and was lost in the desert. And so we woke up and we're in the tent with some Bedouins, and all of a sudden we get a call. I get a call from Kansas City, and I'm like, why is Kansas City calling? And kept getting a call. And I'm like, I just felt like I should answer it. So I answer it. And it's someone on our team, and it says, hey, this is so-and-so, and I'm lost. I'm like, oh, shoot. And I'm looking around. It's like, they are lost. And so we have a guy that's Canadian Special Forces on this trip, and he's like, all right, let's fan out. We'll do this. We'll go this way. And we're asking where the sun was rising, all that. We could not find him. We have a drone my brother had. We send it up in the air. We're looking for her with this drone. I mean, we're scanning everywhere. Can't find her. Our Bedouin friend comes out, and we're like, can you see, where she is? She said you went this way. And first of all, he thought it was hilarious. She was lost. We're like, no, it's not funny. This isn't funny. No, she's lost. And he just comes out, casually looks at the horizon. He just goes, there she is. And literally, like just a little speck on the horizon. We fly the drone over there, and sure enough, that was her. So these people are like, they love the desert. It's their playground. And so they're very nomadic. So anyways, back to Israel, very diverse group. And that's just one country. Then you have the Kurds, you have Palestinians in Jordan, right? Jordan is a very conservative area. And so we've been there many times. You've been there a few times, right, Tom?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so not an enemy to the West. And so you have not as much an enemy to the West. They're very sympathetic to us. And so, but then you have powers like Iran, Iraq, that are run by terrorist regimes. And we can get into the Ayatollahs a bit too, but very diverse area. And so a lot of people think, as we're talking people groups, that Iran is Arabs as well. They're actually Persians, right? Completely different. You see them all the way date back all the way to the early parts of Scripture. Abram came from Ur. Abraham later became Abraham, came from Ur, which is part of Mesopotamia region. And so what's actually kind of cool to tie this back into Israel is that, Israel and Iran, they have been tied together for thousands of years, 4,000 years, right? And then you see all the way up into like Cyrus the Great came in and freed the Jewish people. And so, and this was in 586 BC. So you're fast forwarding all the way to 586 BC. Why this is significant is because, I mean, think about this, these ancient empires and that are rising and falling all the time, to actually release an entire people group and also bless them and bankroll them to get them back to the temple. This was prophesied in Isaiah. He was saying there'll be a man named Cyrus, it'll come about and set our people free. This was proclaimed before, prophesied 100 years before he was born. So the reason that's important is because this happened in, Israel and Iran have been intertwined for a while. In the Bible, it says in Genesis 12, I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. So think of all of Israel's enemies. You have like the Philistines, the Hittites, all, the long list of these enemies throughout the New Testament, Old Testament. And you don't meet a Hittite today, right? Have you met any Hittites?
Yeah.
No, because there's none. But you've met Persians, right? They did bless the land of Israel. And so today they're still a people group, which is interesting. So the reason that's really cool with what's going on today is when Israel and the U.S. had a joint operation to free them from their regime. Hopefully they free them. They are returning the favor that went back centuries to 586 BC.
Wow, that's pretty cool to think about. Yeah,
So-
that history is amazing. When you talk about thousands of years, and then you think about just how old our country is.
Yeah.
It's
that's
incredible. And one thing, we talked a little bit about people groups, and depending on the borders of the country we're talking about, there can be, a few people groups up to I think Afghanistan's got like a crazy number of people groups.
Yeah.
It's such a complicated country. And that's why that's like a country that no one's ever really been able to go in and militarily take over.
Yeah.
But thinking about just even within Islam, there's a lot of different sects of Islam, but the
Sure.
two largest, Shia and Sunni. And that really also plays into
Yeah.
a lot of what is going on in the Middle East. And again, I think for a lot of Westerners, it's just like Muslim and just the Muslim, and thinking like, why would Muslims be attacking one another? Or why would Israel, being like we've talked about, diversified, a diverse country, but a Jewish, having the main Jewish religion and all that, and then the U.S. being still considered in their eyes more of like a Christian Western country, even though we're not really probably a Christian country anymore. How would we be allying ourselves with Muslims against Muslims? So maybe speaking a little bit to the Sunni Shia and how they a lot of times are actually fighting each other even more. And if they weren't, then it'd be pretty hard for Israel to exist if they really truly all allied themselves against Israel.
I don't know the exact numbers, but it's like over 1.6 billion Muslims, could be more, but are Sunni, right? So that's predominantly the main sect of Islam. And so a lot of people would say they're the true, I guess you could look at it, the Christian faith. You have so many different types of sects. You've got Christian, you've got Catholic, and then you can divide that up even more. And so the Sunnis believe that they are the kind of more of the, they look down on the Shias. And so you have two main classes, the Shias and the Sunnis. And so the Shias are predominantly in Iran, and then you have like Saudi Arabia that would be predominantly Sunni. And so they make up like 80% of all Muslims total, which is crazy, is Sunni.
And Muhammad was he Sunni because he was from Saudi Arabia?
Yes. Right? And so you have different beliefs here where the Shias, they wanted it to be someone who's a direct descendant of Muhammad, and then the Sunnis who wanted it to be like more of like clerics and kind of divided religious control, right? So they're always at squabbles, they're always fighting with each other, and it's kind of like, we're the one true type of form of Islam versus, and so that's where a lot of clashes will start and have been going on for centuries. And so you have that division in the Middle East as well, but that's just two of the main groups. And so you have a lot of other different types of sects. You've got Druze, you've got Alawites, you've got all these different types of smaller ethnic groups or smaller groups that are within Islam. And so that's why people like the Kurds are looked down upon by the majority of the Muslim world, is because your faith is not true form of Islam like mine. But then you get into a lot of the hardline Islam and fundamentalism that is kind of more of the Sharia law, jihadists, and that's where those are the people making the news, right? So, and here, I go say this too. There are a lot of great Muslims out there, right? Just like you could say there's a lot of great Catholics, there's a lot of great Jewish people we know. There are a lot of great Muslims out there, but there's a lot of terrorists. And in their eschatology, especially in Iran, it is to take out and wipe out and annihilate Israel. So it's definitely in their charters, and not just them, but us in the West. So those are the people that make the headlines. But to say that all Muslims are bad and terrorists and all that, not true at all. We've met tons of amazing Muslims. And then we've met many of them that have converted to Christianity, and Jesus is showing up in radical ways to pull them out of these dark places and bringing them into light with him. So into relationship with him. So
it's amazing.
Yeah, what's really cool, Josh, about you guys, is you're obviously you spent a lot of time in Israel. You're very close with a lot of Israelis, just kind of across the board. But you have just an incredible love for the Muslim people from all these countries, and a lot of friendships with them. And so that's a really cool thing. Is I think sometimes we tend to sort of pick a side, or we see it as kind of this binary thing. That one side's bad, one side's good. And it's funny in the United States how there's also been a lot of anti-Semitism the last couple of years. It didn't used to be that way, but I feel like that's become very popular. There's obviously a lot of people that are very opposed to all Muslims, and just think all Muslims are bad. And the heart of Christ is very different. I think as believers, to love these people and to meet them where they are. And you guys have clearly done that as a family, which has been so cool to watch.
Yeah, man. Well, absolutely. And so, thank you. And so when we go to Israel, a big thing we try to do, Tim, is like give people a perspective so that they have a love for all people groups, the Jewish people, the Arab people. And so when they come away from it, it's not, oh, I went to Israel and I just love this people group. Or I went to Israel and man, I feel so bad for the people in the West Bank. They're so oppressed. But to have a balanced heart and love for all people groups, because God's heart is big enough to love all of them. And we should too.
Oh, it's so good. And we haven't mentioned it, but I know you've spent some time like in Egypt, which is also different, but predominantly Muslim.
Very dark place. Yeah. Very, very dark.
Do you want to speak a little bit just to even the differences of being like in an Egypt where even the ties back to Christianity would be more like the Orthodox Church?
Yeah.
But just how
Coptic
that is.
Christians, right?
Coptic Christians. Yeah. You have a lot of Coptic Christians there. And some of them are maybe Christian by name, right? What I think is pretty cool though is if your kid is born, they will stamp a little cross on their wrist. And so all over the place you'd see, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they follow Jesus closely. That just means that they could be a Coptic Christian or like, professing that I believe in Jesus, but they're not really practicing their faith. So you see that all throughout Egypt. But man, it is a dark place. I mean, Egypt is very, very dark. I would say out of all the places we've been, me personally, that's where I think the most oppression and probably the darkest things that have happened to us and me personally have been from Egypt. And so much of that ties back into, even like a random thought here, Aladdin, right? Like the whole story of the genie and he's coming out of that lamp. Well, that's tied into their culture. They have these lamps. They call their demons genie. And so those types of elements live in their culture and have been for many, many years. And so it's a very dark culture. And we'd see stuff all the time. We do clinics there. We do whether it be like a church service and invite people in and do eyeglass clinic and give away free eye care. And we'd see people possessed by demons all the time. So if your audience is still listening at this point, they're probably going to tune out after this story, but we would see people possessed by demons constantly. And it's in your face. It's oppressive. Here in the West, happens too, but we're distracted too much to notice it. So,
I think when you don't go overseas and you grow up in the church in the United States, you sort of read that stuff in the Bible and you think, oh, that was just in biblical times, or Jesus cast out demons. It doesn't exist anymore. But I experienced that in India. And
I'm sure.
It's amazing just when you're talking about a spiritual darkness, a spiritual oppression that you can feel.
Totally.
And then you see things that you can't explain them any other way than this is a demonic. When you see it, you know what it is. It just shows you how evil Satan is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
One thing I was going to ask you about, Josh, is interesting. We're very early on in this war. We don't know if this is going to be a couple of weeks or if this is going to be a long-term thing.
Yeah.
But just thinking more about, where are the objectives of each of the groups? Because you have the United States involved and Israel are the two main ones. It's very interesting because this is fracturing the international community. The UK is not really supporting us. They're trying to kind of tread lightly with their Muslim population.
Sure.
Then they're getting attacked. So they kind of have to respond. But they're not sure what to do. Canada's kind of flip-flopping back and forth. France, I think, is opposed it the whole way.
Yeah.
So you have and then like you said, you have Russia, which is already opposing NATO, and maybe this is a chance for them to do something. You have the Gulf states like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Iran, all these different countries that are. It's amazing the transformation of them. Like Tom was saying, like all this technology, all this wealth. I think of Dubai as almost like the new Babylon.
Yeah,
it's just this incredible place. But then they have Iran, which is spoiling everything. And so it just seems like they have such a strong interest in whether they care about the people of Iran or the regime being good. They don't want there to be a problem there. They want to be stabilized. Yeah. So maybe just kind of, what are your thoughts? Where do you think this goes? Where do you think the different interests are? Who's aligned and who's maybe not that aligned? It seems like there's a lot of kind of alliances of convenience, maybe not necessarily like true alliances, but there's shared objectives.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many places I could take this, and I'm so fascinated to see what's going to happen. But there will be a big shakeup in the Middle East. Ideally, you'd want Iran, the regime gone, right? Maybe some sort of democratic government would be in its place. I think could be good. I don't think people want to go back to Ayatollahs. I don't think people want to go back to a Shah monarchy. I think democratic government could be a way forward. That's still a long ways away. And so I was kind of mentioning it earlier. Maybe we were doing it pre-roll, but just that our people that are Iranian, that know the situation well, that grew up there, that were raised there, are saying they're still not free. You need to keep praying for them now. So all of this is a big if, Tim, but if the regime completely gets toppled, I think a democratic government would be ideal. It'd be ideal for the rest of the Middle East, for the Western world as well. They've been Israel's big bad enemy since 79, right? And then you look at Saudi Arabia, like they're all of a sudden, they almost signed an agreement, an accord with Israel, right? And they're becoming more and more sympathetic. There's going to be a day where I hope we can go to Israel, go to Jordan, and you can actually drive down into Saudi Arabia and you can go through all those borders. It's going to be significant. And then you have Russia. I just saw a report yesterday that they're manning up their military, calling up people that are in reservist duty, and they're calling them into uniform and all that. And so they're building up. And so as you're saying, Tim, yeah, they're opposing NATO. What's going to happen there? I mean, you could see these giant superpowers starting to rise up. But I also was looking at reports too, like it shows the U.S. and how successful our campaign has been. I mean, it's like one of the best like American kind of military achievements to start a campaign in our history. I mean, you think of the complete like Navy domination, the aerial domination. I was watching a video where they completely scrambled the Iranian radar and they sent in hundreds of these drones, and they basically made it look like we were sending hundreds of Raptors, F-22, fighter jets. So all of a sudden the operators in Tehran are freaking out, and it's just a decoy to have them all looking this way. That kicks the door wide open. Yeah. Joint operation, Israel and the U.S. come flying in, screaming into the capital. They take out 40 people in about 10 minutes. And I mean, there was reports of Khomeini that maybe was not still, or maybe he was still alive for about 12 hours, but they actually took out their top brass in 40 minutes. So
yeah,
wow,
that's incredible. I mean, never in history could you do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely remarkable. And so the reason I bring that up is because you look at some of the other superpowers like China and Russia, and all of a sudden they're like, man, we have put our stamp on this, and we're showing that we're here and we're not going to mess around. And I saw that. Tim, we were just talking about this too. This is kind of cool. That torpedo that the U.S. took that Iranian warship out, and the sub, guys that have been in subs that have been spending their time in these, they haven't launched one out in an active battle. They've probably been waiting for years to do that. And
I think they said the first time since World War II that we fired something like that, which is kind of crazy.
They've been waiting for a while for that one. So, I mean, and that was a cool video. It just broke the warship in two. I mean, it's just like,
I heard it blew it up in the air or something.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because even from an economic standpoint, they're one of the big concerns is if the Iranians could block the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah. I think about 20% of the global oil goes through there, and they're talking about a global recession if that happened. I think even the South Koreans had to shut down their stock market yesterday.
Yeah, I saw that.
Just because of oil prices going up so fast and how much that affects their economy. And it sounds like we've successfully, like you're saying, so quickly destroyed the Iranian Navy that they haven't been able to go lay mines or really go do anything that we thought that they were going to maybe try and do with the Strait of Hormuz. So you could almost see a proxy war situation with China and the United States, similar to what's happened with Russia and Ukraine. But I think because we've acted so quickly and so decisively, if you're China, you may almost want to just kind of back up and not not get involved at this point.
I mean, if this escalates to superpowers jumping in, it would absolutely trigger World War III very quickly. Yeah. Yesterday, I did see, and this is, again, by the time this episode comes out, it may be a completely different situation, but it is moving quickly. It's fluid. We've got, my brother and I started a company called Uncharted Adventures, and we send teams to the Middle East and Israel predominantly. And we've got 4 teams going between now and May. So we're hoping this moves quickly. But Tim, to your question earlier, it could go, this could go another couple weeks. It could button up quickly. Or I saw earlier, someone from the IDF was saying that this could be a longer campaign. And so Iran is doing everything they can to stall us out, to drag this on. And they have a stockpile that they're sitting on of missiles, and they're definitely well armed up. So it could draw on, and then to your point with the economy, I mean, so much flows through the Strait of Hormuz that it could really affect, not just the West, but it could affect the East as well, like Indonesia and Pakistan. And so, yeah, it could be a very long time till we see some stability in the region, because if the regime is toppled, there's going to be a long time, like what happened in Iraq. Who's going to fill that? What's that vacuum going to be like? And so there's going to be a lot of instability, and who's going to control what. So it's going to be a very interesting time in the Middle East. But I think right now we're on the side we'd want to be on.
Maybe the biggest concern, or kind of the nightmare scenario, is some sort of a dirty bomb. It seems like from a missile standpoint, there's only so much Iran can do. They're doing what they can, but they're limited, with that.
Yep.
And with their Navy being destroyed, I mean, they're kind of in a position where maybe if you went in with ground troops, you could get some sort of a, guerrilla warfare going on that could be difficult for a ground troop kind of thing. But it seems like the real concern is more likely terrorist attacks.
100%.
Maybe in the region or even around the world, and potentially using a dirty bomb or using something that could be pretty devastating. And so I don't know. I don't know what the chances are of that. I don't know if anyone really knows. I know that there's a lot of, everyone's alert about it, but have you heard anything about that?
That was early on. I was having that thought, was like, man, if they make a call around the world, hey, Muslims around the world that are sympathetic to our cause, suicide bombs. And I was thinking, man, there might be some attacks here on U.S. soil, which that is really scary too, how many Muslims have been let in throughout the last administration, and how many of them are young, able-bodied males that are definitely sympathetic to terrorists around the world. So, yeah, I mean, the dirty bomb for sure. I did see this today, that attack drones, the ballistic missiles are going down. I mean, if you look at a graph, it's going like this. I mean, it's basically down at zero. And so yesterday and the day before, Israel's averaging like one a day right now. Before there was, a missile entering in. And so they're averaging about one, which is great news. So we're seeing the volume like dramatically. And so that's good news. And so who knows? I mean, it's trending in the right direction that this could be buttoned up quickly. But like we talked about earlier, Iran's shot missiles at 12 different countries in the Middle East, just the Middle East. And so it's like, they're making everyone mad. And so I don't think you have too many Muslim nations that are sympathetic right now towards them. So
I was going to ask, the timing is interesting because we had the Ukraine-Russia conflict that I guess is in its fourth year. Right?
Yeah, is it still going?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean,
exactly.
Fourth year. So, but you think about for Russia, you're talking about them mobilizing. Yeah. But they've been kind of depleted through that process, that what they've been, dealing with for 4 years. And then you had October 7th happen. And so I'm interested because I know you went to Israel not long after October 7th, and you have a lot of friends in the IDF. The invasion there, when they went into Gaza, when the IDF did, they said like, this is not going to be quick.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to do this like systematically. What's it like now after, because they really went in there systematically, and that was a long campaign. And you have a lot of friends that were called up, like guys with young families. And I mean, the whole way that Israel does their armed forces is so interesting, but that was almost like warming up now for sure. This. I mean,
there's a picture of all the terrorists around the Middle East, and basically most of them have an X through their head, and or over their face. And you think of all of the major players before October 7th, most of them are dead. And I mean, how did that backfire on them, right? Yeah. They were trying to annihilate Israel, and they went in and took out the biggest brass that were Hamas fighters, or Hamas leadership. They went in and cleared out Hezbollah, a lot of these high-ranking officials. And then same thing in Iran. I mean, they literally are taking out their biggest foes. And we do believe that there will be peace for many years if it continues trending this way. But in Israel, after October 7th, they went in and, Israel's totally caught with their pants down. I mean, that's a crude way of saying it, but they were totally caught off guard. Interesting enough, we were going to hire someone on October 6th And we were going to bring them on, and we're like, well, let's wait till Monday. And then on that Saturday, I wake up to a text from my brother, and he's like, dude, check the news. War started in Israel. And all of a sudden, you look, and there's like trucks of, it's just so sad, trucks of Hamas fighters and even civilians. Civilians hate Jewish people so much. They're just like, dude, I'll go. Let's go. Like, I'll go. And they, of course, storm into Israel. And so we're watching just all of this unfold, that they infiltrated southern Israel into all these kibbutzes and just started annihilating people. And the stories are horrific. I went to some of these kibbutzes in December of this year, and of 23, just a month and a half after. And so, yeah, it was really sad. I mean, we see Israel then completely caught off guard. And I mean, it could have been a lot worse. They were supposed to do a coordinated attack with Lebanon and folks in the West Bank, and they were going to push to the center of Jerusalem, and it was going to be horrific. But Israel did go in and just completely take them out. But like you said, it's a long war, very long campaign, because the tunnels are more complicated than like the London subway system. I mean, it's just 7 layers deep, or 7 levels deep in some areas. Some of them you can drive trucks through. Some of them are just little, the tunnels are endless. And so it was a horrific thing that happened to Israel. They grabbed as many people they could, women, children, men, dragged them into Israel. I've interviewed some of them on my show that were taken from the Nova Festival site. Yeah. Just crazy stories. But that did set up them to be much more on guard, alert. And with what's happening in Iran, I mean, they really are truly changing the makeup of the Middle East right now. So I don't know if I answered your question there.
I feel like if you take what happened after October 7th with what Israel's done, and then you add that to Iran, what's happening in Iran right now, I mean, you see terrorism, across the Middle East really being set back. Because I know that Iran was kind of the global sponsor of terror. So if you take that regime out, they've already taken out, a lot of Hamas and Hezbollah leadership. I'm sure that there's going to continue to be these people that rise up. But
sure.
Do you see this being just a major setback for, radical terrorism in the region?
Like you said, there's always going to be groups that pop up. You have ISIS, you have Al-Qaeda, and then all these different groups are going to be, they have these jihadist ideologies. So they will be popping up for sure. But they're not going to be controlling these major countries like the Iranian regime, right? They won't have that much power. So who knows going to be funding this? I mean, there will be definitely some splinter cells that'll pop up and rally troops around them. So absolutely, there's going to be a lot of people sympathetic to that cause. But you don't have these global superpowers, and you don't have a massive country with the power of Iran. So that's going to be a massive benefit.
You said you have 4 trips scheduled in like the next 2 months. Are those right now probably kind of on hold, or until something maybe would change?
Yeah, so it's day to day. I think we'll know a lot more next week. Our trip this month, we just canceled yesterday, or postponed. We're going to push that to fall. And then we've got a trip in April with it's a 3-bus tour. So that one, we want to make sure we're not sending anyone into harm's way. Yeah. But that's a fun one. That's a fun trip. And so we're kind of day to day with that one. And then we have 2 in May. We're trying to, hopefully those are in the clear. But this could button up quickly, and we'll be able to send them back. But like the Israeli spirit for your audience is incredible, right? Like after October 7th, we went there in December, and it was the coolest trip I've ever been on. It was a horrific way to go there. Like you go into the airport, and you have all the signs of the people that were just our age and younger. There were hostages that were kidnapped that are literally in hostage. They're hostages inside tunnels and homes, and like who knows what's happening to them. And then the people of Israel, their spirit was just completely defeated. But being there on the ground, they were like, to be able to go and stand with them during that time and go and walk through the kibbutzes was incredible. It was so horrific. They were completely destroyed, and you would see like this family lived here, and this is the story that happened to them. This family lived here. We were walking through some of these kibbutzes, and you would still smell body parts, fresh body parts that they hadn't been able to collect yet.
Wow.
Crazy. The Israeli spirit, though, was unwavering. And I'll never forget, it was October 8th. And I texted, it was actually the day of October 7th. And I was texting my buddy, and he's got 4 kids, all boys, young family. And just an amazing Jewish dude. He's a believer in Jesus. And we can talk about that too, the Messianic, if we want to, go there too. But he believes in Jesus. And I text him on October 7th. And it is late in the day in Israel. It's evening time, and he's already in his uniform. And he texts me back. It's a picture of him and his whole battalion. He says, we will be victorious. Israel will win. And it was like so cool to get that text from a buddy, a friend who's like on the front lines. And he's like, we will be victorious. We're going to win. And also I was like, dude, I got a young family here. Mm-hmm. How could you imagine? Like, just the thought of like, all right, honey, I'm going, you know, I hopefully I'll come back. But there were so many wives at that point with October 7th that they would be complaining about their husband's, you know, reservist duty that he's got to go and, you know, serve in the military from time to time. But on October 7th, wives were pushing their husbands out the door, like, go fight for us. It was pretty cool to be part of, man. I was like, I want to fight. Where do I sign up?
Yeah, so. It's amazing. We can't comprehend because here in the U.S., we're just watching everything from across the oceans. Yeah. Just watching these countries fight. And it's kind of like, is Israel safe to go to? And that's like always the question, no matter what. You know, no matter what, even if there's not a war going on. And they live there all the time. And I remember going with you the first time, you download an app so that when there are rockets launched at Israel, because it's happening like all the time. Yeah. Then you get a notification that like, hey, there's rockets being launched. Yeah. And right now, if you look at that app, it's like the whole country's set off with alerts, but they're just so used to that. And they are. We benefit, you know, we have benefited for like our whole country's history, really. Yeah. I mean, we haven't had a war on our turf since like the Civil War. Yeah. Yeah. You know, and then it'd be like the American Revolution, but like World War II and all that, it was like, you know, other than Hawaii, Hawaii was attacked. It hasn't been like these other countries. Yeah. And it's amazing to think about just the fortitude of those people. Yeah. I saw something where they're saying most countries, you're evacuating your people. Israel's the only one where they're evacuating their people in. They're getting people back in. Yeah. People are immediately just dropping whatever they're doing. And they want to go fight. They want to go fight. Yeah. All over the world, people came back to Israel to
it's also probably important to note for your listeners too. So for those that don't know, like, you know, if you're going after high school, men and women serve in the IDF. So women serve for 2 years and men serve for 3 or 4. I think might have mixed that up. But men serve for longer, and women, both men and women though, are supposed to serve. And so you have this country that's got deep patriotism, and they all know how to fight. They all know Krav Maga. And so when October 7th happened, like you said, Jews from around the world were doing everything they could when airlines were shutting down, when not flying in. El Al, one of the airlines, was flying in, and they were trying to collect as many Jewish people from around the world to come because they wanted to go and fight, which I think is so cool. Yeah. I think there's a lot of it. Probably that happened in America. There'd be a lot of Americans who'd be like, good, take our country, you know?
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Sadly, it's true, I think.
Yeah. It's been really fun to have you on, Josh. Yeah, man. I think we're so thankful to know you and your family and all that you guys have done over the years, just serving people. Like Tim said, loving people of all different races, religions, like going and trying to take the gospel to them and share the truth, but also just loving them and appreciating their hospitality. Yeah, and I've gotten to do that with you shoulder to shoulder, which has been really fun. So I can't wait to... I know we've been talking about doing it again, and then there keeps being like a war that pops up.
I know. Seems we got to get Tim there too.
We do.
I know. I want to go next time for sure.
Man.
I'm jealous.
Well, thank you for having me, guys. It's been fun.
We'll definitely have you back on soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
All right.
Thank you for listening to our podcast today. If you have questions about land you own in Texas, send us an email at texaslandguys@dmre.com and follow us on LinkedIn to stay updated.